The moment my tires hit the driveway, a woman sprinted across the lawn, screaming, "You can't live here. No welcome, no congratulations, just pure fury aimed straight at me." She slammed her hand on my hood like she was halting a getaway car. "Step out," she ordered. "This property belongs to Silver Ridge Estates, and you are trespassing." I still had the key fob in my hand. I hadn't even shut the engine off. Before I could answer, 3 cars screeched up behind her clipboard, people piling out like backup had been called. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Whatever she tells you, don't believe it. She's done this to others." Her name was Denise Carver, and calling her HOA president didn't quite capture the scope of her enthusiasm. Denise operated like Silver Ridge was a miniature country, and she was its self-appointed border patrol. Every morning, she rolled through the neighborhood in a beige golf cart, outfitted with a tape measure, a binder thicker than a Bible, and the kind of glare that could make a mailbox feel insecure. You could tell instantly who she targeted. People stiffened when her cart slowed. Dogs barked. Curtains twitched. Denise thrived on it. Her defining moment for me came about 20 minutes after that first confrontation. She marched up to my fence, snapped a photo without asking, measured a post, and declared, "Non-compliant. I'll be filing this." I hadn't even moved in yet. 10 minutes later, she scolded a neighbor for having lawn edging a quarter-inch too tall, documenting it like she was cataloging evidence from a crime scene. No conversation, no courtesy, just control. And that was the thing about Denise. My house wasn't just another rule to enforce. It was an exception she couldn't tolerate. One property outside her jurisdiction, one map line she couldn't bend, which made me the perfect enemy. Because people like Denise don't hate chaos. They hate anything they don't control. Emily and I had spent 6 months losing bidding wars to cash buyers who treated houses like trading cards. Every time we thought we'd finally found a place, someone swooped in with an offer so high it felt like monopoly money. By the time this 2-story place in Silver Ridge appeared, priced a little under market, shaded by old oaks, we didn't hesitate. A quiet street, a clean title search, and a seller who wanted a quick closing. It felt like the first real luck we'd had all year. We told ourselves not to overthink it. We deserved a win. I worked remote in IT. Emily worked 12-hour ER shifts. We weren't flashy people. We just wanted a stable place to build a life. A porch where we could drink coffee. A yard where maybe someday a dog could nap in the sun. But even on day 1, something about the neighborhood felt and watched. Curtains moved when we drove by. Walkers slowed just enough to study us. And Denise, of course, hovered like she'd been waiting for us specifically. Emily joked we should buy cameras before buying a couch. I laughed. Then I bought the cameras. Within 3 days of moving in, the quiet dream cracked. A notice from city code enforcement appeared on our door, improper trash container placement, which was strange because we'd barely unpacked and hadn't even filled the trash bin yet. 2 days later, unapproved exterior color. We hadn't painted a thing. Then untidy lawn, which was impressive considering we'd watered and trimmed it the night before, like we were prepping it for a magazine shoot. When I called the city, the clerk sighed the way someone does when they've answered the same question 100 times. "New owner at that address?" she asked. "My advice, bring evidence to your appeal and keep records." That sentence lingered. Because if the city already knew something was off, then this wasn't random. It wasn't about tidiness. It was about pressure. And Denise Carver, with her binder and her surveillance-level enthusiasm, had just turned our new home into a battlefield. The first official hit came on a Wednesday. I opened the front door in my socks and found a bright orange notice flapping against the glass like it wanted to fly away from the embarrassment. Improper trash container placement. The problem: our trash cans were still spotless, lined up in the garage because we hadn't even had our first pickup yet. I called the number on the notice. The woman on the other end sounded tired enough to be on her second cup of coffee and 4th complaint. "Address?" she asked. I gave it. There was a pause too long to be technical. "New owner, right," she said. "You can appeal. Just bring evidence. And keep records." I stepped outside while we talked. Across the street, Denise sat in her golf cart pretending to scroll her phone pointedly, not looking at me. 2 days later, another notice UNAP proved exterior color. We hadn't painted anything. On Friday, untidy lawn. Our lawn looked like a home and garden ad. That night, my phone buzzed. Same unknown number. She starts with stupid stuff. Little things. Don't ignore it. The first time Denise crossed my property line, she didn't even knock. I watched it on the camera feed in real time from my desk while I was on a Zoom call. She marched straight up the walkway, tape measure in hand, and started checking the distance between our steps and the sidewalk, like she was auditing the crime scene of a crooked stair. Jake, my coworker, asked through my headset, You good? Yeah, I lied, watching Denise lean closer to the doorbell camera, her face filling the frame. She didn't press the button. She just stared, wrote something on a clipboard, and moved on to the side gate. That afternoon, my neighbor, sweet older guy named Paul, came by with a nervous smile. Hey, Jake, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Denise asked if I'd be willing to, keep an eye on noise over here. Said you'd already had a couple incidents. What incidents? I asked. He swallowed. She said, you yelled at her. Said she felt threatened. My stomach dipped. That night, another text from the unknown number. She uses witnesses. She scripts them. Record what she says, not just what you say. The first physical damage was small enough to question, just subtle enough to make you feel crazy. I noticed it when I was watering the front flower bed. A palm-sized patch of paint on the side of the house near the meter looked scraped. Not chipped from age, dragged like someone had taken a key or a rough edge and deliberately scored a circle into the siding. The next day, a violation showed up in our mailbox. Deteriorating exterior surface. Attached photo that exact spot. Emily stared at it when she got home from her shift. We checked that wall before we closed, she said. It was fine. We both knew what that meant. Saying it out loud felt like giving it power. A few days later, I came home to find our trash cans tipped over, and one lid cracked straight through like someone had stomped it. The side yard camera that should have seen it dead. The cable had been cut, clean and neat right where it met the wall. That night, my company laptop pinged with a meeting invite. Quick check-in. Local concerns. My manager's face appeared on the screen, careful and awkward. Jake, we got a call. Someone says you've been hostile with neighbors. They mentioned police involvement. We have local clients in that area, I felt the bottom drop out. Denise wasn't just coming for our house. She was reaching into my job. The knock on the door came just after sunset. I opened it to find 2 patrol officers on the porch, hands resting near their belts, cruiser lights washing the street in red and blue. Across the way, Denise stood with her arms folded, performing concern for an invisible audience. Mr. Miller, the taller officer, asked, "We got a report of an escalating dispute between you and the HOA president. She says you've been acting aggressively. We just need your side." I stepped back, heart pounding, and gestured to the living room. "I've got cameras," I said. "A lot of cameras." 10 minutes later, we were all crowded around my TV while I scrubbed through footage of Denise on my porch at dawn, measuring, filming, lecturing empty air about non-compliance. Clips of me over and over saying one thing, "Please stay off. My property." The shorter officer shifted, jaw tightening. "This is not what was described," he said quietly. As they left, the tall one leaned close. "If I were you, I'd talk to a lawyer and keep those cameras rolling." That night, my phone rang. Same unknown number. Voice distorted low. "You're on the restraining order track," the caller said. "She's done it before. Get ready." The petition landed on a Thursday, like bad weather. A process server and a windbreaker handed me a fat envelope with my name printed in legal-sized accusation. Inside Denise's sworn statement, accusing me of threatening gestures, menacing presence, and repeated hostile confrontations. 3 neighbor declarations, all reading like they'd been written by the same person, used the exact same phrase I feared for my safety. Attached were short video clips I recognized immediately because they were from my own cameras. Only now, they were trimmed within an inch of their lives. No Denise stepping onto my porch first. No tape measure. No clipboard. Just a tight frame of me stepping forward saying, "You need to leave," without the part where she'd already been on my property for 3 solid minutes. It was like watching myself in a funhouse mirror built by a lawyer. The last page made my chest go cold, a notice of a hearing, and a line about the court's power to order me temporarily removed from the property. Get out of your own house. That same day, we got a friendly letter from Heritage Lane Preservation Trust offering a stress-free, quick-close purchase option if the neighborhood felt like too much right now. That night, the unknown caller spoke again. This time, no distortion. "My name's Nolan," he said. "She's run this play before. But this time, you're not alone." And that was the moment I realized I wasn't just defending my house. I was walking straight into someone else's unfinished war. The courtroom felt colder than it needed to be, like the AC had been set to emotional intimidation. Emily squeezed my hand as Denise took her seat across the aisle, wrapped in a pale cardigan hair, pinned into an almost saintly halo. She looked fragile, trembling, even the picture of a neighbor just trying to feel safe. Her lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, Miss Carver has endured weeks of escalating hostility." He clicked a remote and short clips flashed on the screen, tight shots of me stepping toward the camera, my voice saying, "You need to leave." No context, no porch measuring, no trespassing, just me looking like a man spoiling for a fight. A couple of people in the gallery shifted uncomfortably. Then Denise took the stand. She dabbed a dry eye, voice quivering. I feared for my life. I still do. Her hands shook with mechanical precision, almost rehearsed. For a brief nauseating moment, I felt the tide turn her way. Then Monica Reyes, my attorney, rose calmly, rolled a cart toward the projector and said, "Your Honor, the clips you've seen were edited. What we are about to show you is the full story." The temperature in the room changed. Full footage filled the screen. Not seconds, minutes. Denise stepping boldly onto my property, measuring, photographing, ignoring my repeated calm requests to leave. Her whispering to a neighbor, "Say you felt threatened. It sounds better." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Monica didn't pause. She introduced Exhibit B, statements from 2 former residents in nearby neighborhoods, both pressured with violations until they sold to Heritage Lane Preservation Trust for tens of thousands below market. Then came the bomb. "Exhibit C," Monica said, tapping the remote. "Submitted anonymously this morning." High-resolution photos appeared on the screen, Denise sliding a thick envelope across a cafe table to Inspector Halbrook, both glancing around, both leaning in like conspirators in a spy thriller. Date stamped, time stamped, the same days my violations were issued. Denise's face went rigid color, draining as if someone pulled the plug on her performance. Even her own lawyer blinked, caught off guard. Gasps filled the room. Monica's voice stayed steady. What Miss Carver presented as fear was strategy. What she described as neighborhood duty was targeted harassment and manipulation of a public official. The judge leaned forward, mouth a tight line. "Miss Carver," he said, "you'd better hope there's more to this than meets the eye." There wasn't. The judge recessed for 15 minutes. When he returned, the register of his voice dropped an octave. "Petition denied," he said, each word crisp as glass. "Denied with prejudice." Denise's shoulders jerked as if struck. "This court," he continued, "is referring all submitted evidence to the district attorney's office. Potential charges may include perjury, falsifying statements, harassment, and conspiracy involving a public official." Her lawyer attempted to object, but the judge cut him off with a raised hand. "I've seen enough." The room buzzed. People leaned toward each other. Even the bailiff looked stunned. Denise stood swaying slightly. Her perfect posture cracked for the first time since I met her. I was protecting the neighborhood," she whispered, as if saying it quietly made it truer. The judge didn't even look up from his notes. "No," he said. "You were abusing your authority." As we gathered our things, the bailiff approached me with a quiet, almost embarrassed smile. "Sorry for how this started," he said. "Glad the truth came out." Emily squeezed my hand again, harder this time. Behind us, Denise's lawyer whispered urgently to her. She sat frozen, eyes blank, not angry, not defiant, just stunned that her world had slipped out of her grasp in a single morning. And as Emily and I stepped into the sunlight outside the courthouse, a truth settled deep in my bones. This wasn't the end of the fight. It was just the first time Denise Carver realized she wasn't untouchable. Word moved through Silver Ridge, faster than lawn gossip on a Saturday morning. By sunset, small clusters of neighbors stood at street corners, whispering, gesturing, trading stories, like people finally allowed to speak after a storm passed. For the first time since we moved in, no one avoided eye contact. Instead, people approached us cautiously, almost apologetically. An older couple, the Jeffersons, brought over a thick accordion folder filled with violation notices they'd never had the courage to show anyone. "We thought it was just us," Mrs. Jefferson whispered, "or that maybe we weren't keeping up." Her voice cracked, and suddenly the weight of how long people had suffered under Denise's reign hit me like a punch. Others stepped forward, a single dad who'd been fined over a garden hose, a widow who'd been cited for chipped paint on a shed that didn't even belong to her, a teacher who'd nearly sold her home because she was convinced she was doing everything wrong. I watched, stunned, as shame turned into solidarity. That night, the HOA called an emergency meeting in the community center. The room overflowed, folding chairs, scraping murmurs vibrating off the walls. When Denise walked in, the space froze. She looked smaller, humbled, stripped of her usual weaponized confidence. One by one, neighbors stood and spoke, not angrily, just honest. They described dread, intimidation, sleepless nights, and the quiet terror of checking their mail because another violation might be waiting. Some even cried. It wasn't rage that undid Denise, it was truth. When the time came for a vote to remove her as president, the outcome wasn't a cheer, it was a collective exhale. 29-1, and everyone knew who the one was. Denise tried to speak afterward, launching into some speech about standards and sacrifice, but the room had already moved on. Her words landed flat like theater performed to an empty house. For the first time, Silver Ridge belonged to its residents, not its ruler. The fallout came fast. Within a week, the district attorney's office announced a formal inquiry into Denise's actions, the violations, and her connection to Inspector Holbrook. The city quietly reassigned him, placing him under internal investigation. 2 other inspectors were questioned, and for the first time in years, the community could see the gears turning behind the curtain. A new city portal went live, a public dashboard showing every violation issued, who filed it, and what supporting evidence existed. Transparency replaced intimidation. Sunshine disinfected everything Denise had manipulated in the dark. Then came the bigger revelation. The Heritage Lane Preservation Trust, the friendly buyer offering quick sales to stressed homeowners, was tied directly to several neighborhoods where HOAs had mysteriously intensified enforcement. Local reporters connected the dots, stringing together undervalued homes, aggressive violations, and trust acquisitions in a pattern that stretched years. And woven through that timeline was one name again and again: Denise Carver. It wasn't long before a financial investigation opened. One inspector flipped early, cooperating in exchange for leniency. Even Denise's husband, Mark, an accountant with tired eyes, came forward. He explained he'd signed trust documents believing he was helping diversify his retirement, not enabling a manipulation scheme. His testimony wasn't angry. It was heartbreaking. Predators don't just hurt strangers. They hollow out their own homes. As the legal machine churned, Emily and I found ourselves breathing differently. We slept through the night. We drank coffee on the porch without scanning for golf carts or clipboards. Our dog napped without bolting upright at every car door slam. It's strange how quickly peace feels unfamiliar and then slowly becomes normal again. A week after Denise stepped down, a man lingered under the streetlight across from our house. Hands in jacket, pockets, posture, unthreatening, just patient. When the neighbors thinned, he crossed the street. "You're Jake, right?" he asked. "I'm Nolan. Nolan Price." The name clicked instantly. Margaret Cole's nephew, the previous owner, the anonymous caller, the steady voice behind the warnings. We sat on my steps under the glow of the porch light, and he laid out a portfolio thick enough to rival my binder. Timelines, photos, recorded conversations, patterns across multiple neighborhoods, months of work. He had been trying to stop Denise from weaponizing HOAs long before I ever saw the for sale sign. "I needed someone who wouldn't back down," Nolan said quietly. "Most people can't, not because they're weak, because they're tired. Because life is heavy, because fighting systems feels impossible." I wasn't flattered. I wasn't proud. Mostly I just wished it hadn't been necessary. But the justice, when it came, felt clean. Silver Ridge changed after that. People swapped stories instead of staying silent. The new board ran workshops, teaching residents how to appeal, notices how to document their interactions, how to CC the right officials, so paper trails couldn't be buried. We created a tiny neighborhood defense network, not angry, not militant, just informed, empowered, and impossible to bully again. The best twist came in the mail. A postcard, no return address, signed by 3 families from another town affected by similar tactics. It read, "We saw what you did. We're not selling." Emily pinned it to the fridge with a red bird magnet. That night we watered the young elderflower bush. Someone had gifted us because our porch, for the first time since moving in, felt like a place where joy was allowed. And as I stood there, hose in hand, I thought about noise, how quiet neighborhoods can hide the loudest bullies, how clipboards can masquerade as authority, how maps matter more than threats. I'm not telling you this to be dramatic. I'm telling you because someday someone might stand in your driveway and say you don't belong. If that day comes, here's my advice: save everything, appeal everything, fight when it's easier to fold. And remember, sometimes the strongest rebellion in a neighborhood is simply saying, "That rule doesn't apply to me," and having the evidence to back it up.